Welcome back to Raptor-One.
Raptor-One, Voyagers of the Stars. Season 2, Chapter 13. Low Choir. The board hears a please. On the slab, low choir was a dark ribbon with 3 dull screws set far apart, as if whoever hammered them and had been listening instead of measuring. Someone had chalked a squiggle along the ribbon's edge that wasn't quite a staff, not quite a river. When Ira set 2 fingertips to the copper, she tilted her head, then smiled the small smile reserved for problems that want to behave. It keeps forgetting what bead is, she said. It isn't testing us. It's asking. Asking what? Varric wanted to know, already fond of anything that didn't want applause. To be allowed to count out loud, Talon answered, voice shaded with a craftsperson's tenderness. Rooms don't often ask permission. June's Deadman canister had a single page in it, stamped info, not advisory, the Accord's gentlest category. Hums present in irregular measure, not radiant, not autumn, no trap patterns yet. Nearby relays show auditor inked, but bored. Lean right threads present at low tension. Expect clerical reflex, not enforcement. Chiron read that last line twice and set the paper under a clay token, as if the weight might keep the sentence true. Clerks who think they're bored find mischief, he warned. We will come late to boredom. Saran looked around at their 8 and the hall that had learned their weight. Terms hold, they said. Late. Plain. Stubborn. We do not teach a trick to a room that is trying to learn please. If the lean right pins anything to us, we put it on furniture and sweep it later. The elder nodded to the hood. Bank first, they said, because weather begins at home. They set the ember on the basin's lip. Ira counted 4 slow. Tessa laid her unpretty hum beneath. The hood drank heat and returned boredom. The bowls answered present. Only then did the board accept hands. The hinge with its 3 honest lies, Darrow's coils, Chiron's tokens, Talon's shallow timings, Ira's ribbon and chalk, Cyrus's 2 rain filters, Saran's pencil to record costs they would not read aloud. Bring 8, the tall median said from the door, the phrase warmed by habit rather than ceremony. Blind lens, the organizer added, smiling at Cyrus in the way that deputizes instead of flattering. Leave room, the elder finished, and the hall felt taller for it. A departure without speeches. They took their chairs like people seating themselves in a kitchen after the water has remembered how to boil. The ring obliged. The ribs said yes. The measure throat approved without show. Band stayed cool. Varric set the hinge to old pain to start. Click, low, plausible, and folded waste heat into a slope so tired it could have been furniture. Darrow checked the lean guides along starboard, dull ceramic posts with just enough kindness in their surfaces to persuade threads they were chairs. Talon slid the small knife into its shallow setting. Chiron wrote erasure posture into his knuckles by habit. Inventory, interval, boring. Check in? Cyrus asked quietly, because good luck arrives on a whisper. Here, Tessa said, hand hovering near the felt sling. No beacon. A breath. You? Hungry, steady, he answered. 1 sentence saved. Good correction, she said, and the 2 words put his shoulders where they belonged. On my word, Saran murmured, and when the word landed late the ship moved as if the room had thought of it first. The hum at the door. Low choir announced itself not with a tone, but with permission that had not yet learned how to be permission. A pressure touched the hull like a child's palm on a sleeping dog. Honest, hoping not to startle. Ira's eyes warmed. It's listening to us listen, she said. The 3 anchors lay in a strange triangle, north distant and watchful, west close but distracted, like a neighbor at their window, south forgotten a little, as if no one had bothered to finish it. Between them, habit swam in slow eddies that refused to agree on a time. Room wants rhythm, Talon said. But if we give a beat it can clap to, doctrine will wake and make law out of it. Then we lend count and take it back before it becomes a statute, Saran said. Late, plain, stubborn. Tessa set her hum so soft it might have been floorboards. The ember warmed, not brighter, steadier, and the isolation mount turned rhythm into posture instead of signature. Chiron exhaled inventory into the field. We are tiresome, fractionally wrong, no form worth stamping. Varric left the hinge to old pain through the first curve, then tapped new bruise once, sharp and contrite, to keep honesty from becoming a shape doctrine could memorize. The room answered with a small, lopsided echo. Ira put a rest where a downbeat might have lived, and the echo obediently tripped, then laughed at itself in the only way rooms know how, by failing to repeat the mistake as policy. Good, Ira whispered. It can learn not to enforce. An invitation that isn't a trap. A field whisper shaped itself into words no channel carried. May I? It wasn't the auditor's interrogatory or the lean-right summons. It was a room practicing a mouth. Say yes, Talon said, struck. Not to a demand, to a request. How? Darrow asked, because Rope is good at what and wise enough to be humble at how. Let it borrow the ember, Tessa said, astonished to hear herself propose it. Brief, on my count, as if you were handing a bowl to a small, careful hand. 3-breath grace, Chiron said automatically, writing the rule where impulse could see it. On the third, we allow late. Saran did the count with 2 fingers a little below the sight line of most of the room. 1, 2, 3. Tessa lowered her hum another hair, so plain it was nearly a posture and not a sound, and lifted the ember with the felt sling a finger-width closer to the panel Varric had dulled to a mat, then held there, absolutely unproud. The room took exactly 1 sip. Low choir hummed back in a different key, as if showing them what it had understood without trying to be impressive. The anchors shivered but did not pounce. Late, Ira murmured, and put a rest where excitement might have set a foot wrong. The room imitated the pause with great dignity and then waited. Thank you, Talon said aloud to the habit, a silly courtesy made serious by the fact of its being said. The clerk at the back of the hall. Threads unrolled from the far edge of the north anchor, quiet, delicate, almost embarrassed. The lean-right had woken from a nap and remembered it had a job. State purpose. Register delay. Chiron made a face like a man asked to show his receipts for a cup of water. We refuse politely, he said. Rope. Darrow laid a coil across the console the way Katrin had taught him to put rain on a windowsill. A thread settled onto it, as a tired person chooses a chair in a waiting room. A second thread reached for the ember and missed because the new mount presented flooring, not signature. A third brushed the hinge and found new bruise. Then my nephew fixed it, then old pain and lost confidence in its own categorization. Lean on furniture, Darrow noted, not proud. Sweep later. Logged, Chiron said. No signatures given. Low choirs seemed to watch them managing their clerk politely, without making it a spectacle. The hum present in the walls kept time with itself a little better. Paper between teeth. As the anchor's attentions adjusted, north listening, west distracted, south forgotten, Ira saw the old geometry reveal itself. A paper corridor as thin as sincerity between two disagreements that could not agree on how to disagree. "We can walk that," she said, as she had in Stillwater and Ash, but with a warmth that had nothing to do with triumph. "We can walk it and teach nothing." Saran set the bow to the paper's angle. Varric ran heat into sand, so the slope read like weather no clerk could bill. Talon slid the small knife shallow. A tremble there, absent there. A reminder, not a performance. Chiron did nothing on purpose, a skill he had been practicing with zeal. Darrow stood ready to make leans comfortable elsewhere. Cyrus kept his eyes on the bulkhead and thought about Stu, because there is such a thing as offering the room your restraint as a kind of furniture. Tessa held the ember at that finger's-width reach and counted for 2 rooms at once, the one they were in and the one low choir wanted to be. They crossed. The band stayed cool. The measure throat approved without commentary. A ship that came to listen. On the far lip of the corridor, tucked into a fold where habit turned its face away from doctrine, a small craft waited with all its lights the same soft wrong. Not Sparrow. Older, rounder, a hull made of compromises that had survived on charm until charm stopped working. Her canopy wore fingerprints in grease. Along her spine, someone had written in paint meant for fences. Lullaby. Cyrus's grin tried to arrive and was rebuked by rule. He tamed it into something fit for a room that had learned please. Pilots breathing, Ira noted. Ships trying to listen, not perform. But the lean right's written her up for being late 3 times. Chiron glanced toward the anchors. If we escort her like a parade, the clerk will knit the leans into a rope we can't cut without teaching an argument. Then we don't escort, Saran said. We set a table and let her be a guest. Darrow whispered to rope and Lullaby's ring as if greeting a dog that could bite. He lifted 2 threads off the small ship's manner with non-signal patience and set them on the guides along Raptor-One's corridor. He did not keep them. He made them comfortable as a prelude to being swept. Tessa put her hum against the canopy. No radio, just posture. Count 2 in, 4 out, she said to the grease-smudged glass. If any sentence tries to start in your mouth, give it to a wall. A hand lifted, skeletal behind fog, and made a circle. Okay. Leave them the broom closets, Chiron said, already preparing the maintenance requests that would pre-stamp themselves into the corridor's admin bones. 2 between here and the pocket. No names until the invoice is written. Talon traced a tiny timing on the Lullaby's skin and then erased it. A permission to be late she could carry without teaching anyone but herself. Rest ahead, Ira told both ships, and moved the paper corridor an inch to account for a room that had learned politeness in the last 5 minutes. They didn't tow. They didn't announce. They didn't make themselves responsible for the Lullaby story. They made the room capable of letting her keep one. The cost that feels like a bowl. Low choir reached once more for the ember as if to ask for another drink. Saran shook their head a degree. A kindness that looks like refusal until you learn rooms have to practice thirst. After, Talon said aloud, and smiled at the feeling of the word used in a new way. The lean right tried a last filament, half-hearted. Darrow lifted it, set it on the guide, and blew on it the way you blow on a thread you're trying to find in bad light. It floated to the floor, embarrassed, and stuck to nothing. They came out along Gray River with nothing warm that hadn't been agreed upon. Band's cool. Hood patient. Bulls thirsty. They banked. Ember to basin's lip, Ira's count arriving late enough to be polite. Tessa's hum laid under rhythm until rhythm remembered it was a floor. Varric's heat into weather. Hood exhaling the preciousness out of the room. Bowles answering present like the first good word of a long day. Only then did the board accept their hands again. Ira drew the low choir ribbon and chalked a small thank you. You couldn't read unless you knew how to watch copper breathe. It asked, she said. We let it. Varric set the hinge down and rolled his shoulder once. Old pain did work. New bruise did manners. Nephew fixed it might be a sin in this room. Then we use it elsewhere, Saran said. Darrow hung one pale lean right thread on the nail beside yesterday's trophies. We'll weave a mat yet, he promised the hood. Feet deserve something to do. Chiron pinned 2 maintenance requests stamped repairs, cleaning and road approved beneath them in a handwriting that made clerks relax. 2 closets stocked with permission, he said. Late by a hair. Talon sketched the small knife's shallow and low choir dialect, then struck a line through it and tucked it under the board. Not for reuse, they reminded themselves. Varied honesty or nothing. Cyrus propped a rain filter against the slab so the hall lamp turned the copper into weather. He thought about the one sentence he had banked and waited the pleasure of the room to spend it. Tessa placed her shard beside the seed and hummed 2 notes out of phase until the basin's rim sang back the seam. Room pleased, she said, and meant we didn't teach ourselves to be necessary. Saran put both palms on the slab. We did not become a story, they said. We let a room have a voice. The elder poured a measure into the empty bowl and moved it toward the hearth. Payment made, they said. Bring me that ship's name when she writes it bigger. Lullaby, Cyrus murmured, unable to help himself, then bit back the rest of the noise. Tessa's glance held pride and a reminder folded together. Doc quiet, heart aloud one sentence. Third watch, under the hood that has cousins everywhere worthwhile. T10 labeled steady. The ember pacing a kitchen's kind of time. One sentence, Tessa said. Cyrus sifted and smiled a private smile. I like that the room asked, and we didn't make it say please twice, he said. Me too, she answered, and that was the whole story love needed tonight. They kissed once. The ember kept time. The room stayed home. Check in? He added after a beat, because rules are how you make warmth weatherproof. Here, she said. Still no beacon. A small grin. You? Steady, he said, and meant it. Orders that feel like a door. Practice arrived as chores. The organizer set 3 small chips on the slab. Lullaby's route home, knotted with 2 broom closets already filed in repairs, cleaning. A whisper from Gleamfall. The narrator had tried again and been made to trip over a rest left behind. Send more rests, June wrote in the margin, a joke that wasn't. A rumor from beyond low choir, out past a blank reach called Heeltide, a relay that refuses to yawn, a clerk that writes leans on comfort, and a small, patient light that doesn't belong to anyone yet. Saran didn't look for poetry in any of it. We vary honesty, they said. We don't turn low choir into a trick. We carry count between teeth. We bring back tickets and staple them where others can learn what not to pay. Bring 8, the tall median said. Blind lens, the organizer added. Leave room, the elder finished, and somewhere in the walls low choir's new hum tucked itself neatly under the halls. Raptor-One tipped her bow toward Heeltide, where a relay was rumored to be righteous in a way that always ends with a clerk, and toward a small patient light that had asked no one's permission yet, and might not need to if a ship arrived late, plain, and stubborn enough to make a room feel safe being kind. The corridor between questions. gray river bent slow around them, the kind of bend that pretends it has always been there. The lullaby peeled away on her own beat, carrying 2 broom closets folded into her spine like provisions. The crew watched her vanish without a wave. Relief left behind was a kind of payment, not a performance. Ira laid a new copper strip on the board. 3 short dashes, then a long flat line, heel-tied. Not a yawn, she said, tone careful. A refusal. Anchors not opening to each other. A relay that believes silence should be permanent. Chiron's fingers tapped his clay token once, twice. And doctrine loves permanence, he said grimly. If a relay stops yawning, it can turn corridors into courtrooms. Tessa brushed her palm over the ember's sling, as though reminding herself it still belonged to her. Then we'll have to remind it silence isn't law. Just rest. Varric adjusted the hinge into new brews with a sharp TCK. And what about the rumor of a light? Saran leaned forward. We don't know if it's ship, lantern, or mouth. Accord just says, a small, patient light not attached to doctrine. That could mean help or bait. The cost of carrying quiet. The board session didn't end until they all spoke cost aloud. Ira, low choir took 1 rest from me, plain as prayer. I'll need another before long. Varric, hinge variance worked. I left a bruise where there wasn't one. My shoulder will want payment later. Tessa, the ember lent count to a room. Only for a breath, but it left a weight. I will carry it plain. Darrow, threads swept, but rope holds their shadow. I'll burn it before sleep. Chiron, I said no when my body wanted yes. The ledger isn't clean, but it's balanced. Talon, knife shallow once. The echo knows me. I won't cut again in the same dialect. Cyrus, 1 sentence banked. I nearly spent it. I'll save it for after. Saran, I watched us make something new and didn't turn it into a speech. That's my tithe. The hood above the hall sighed the pride out of the room. Bowls murmured present. The ember burned like bread baking, steady, unshowy. A patient light in the dark. 2 corridors beyond low choir. The river narrowed into a throat of broken anchors and silence that refused to fold. Heel-tide lay there, stubborn, a relay that had forgotten how to yawn. And beyond it, against the dark, hung the light. Small, not dazzling, patient. Not autumn red, not radiant gold. A steady pale blue, the color of breath fogging glass. It blinked once, not message, but presence. A reminder, I'm here. Ira's breath caught. It's not a trap. It's waiting to be joined. Or waiting to be named, Chiron said, always wary. Names make teeth. Saran let silence be captain for account before answering. We'll treat it like we treated low choir. A guest, not a headline. No speeches. No tricks. We let it tell us what it is. Cyrus angled the blind lens toward the light, resisting every fiber that wanted to film. His voice was low. Check in? Here, Tessa said, her hum steady, soft. Still no beacon. A pause. You? Steady, Cyrus answered, and for once, hunger didn't intrude. The relay that wouldn't yawn. The heel-tied anchors bristled like jaws locked shut. Doctrine whispered through the field. No passage. No late. No excuse. Varric toggled the hinge till my nephew fixed it. TCHCH. Ira laid a rest where the field expected rhythm. Talon slid the knife shallow, a tremor here, absent there. Tessa kept her hum boring, low, patient. The lean right stirred, threads unrolling with more confidence this time. Dara was waiting. Rope, non-signal, lifted them onto ceramic posts. Threads sat like paperwork abandoned on a desk. Leanwright's clerk is ambitious, Chiron muttered. Wants to write silence into statute. Then we'll answer with boredom until it forgets to care, Saran said. The patient light speaks. Through the locked anchors, the light pulsed. 3 slow, 2 fast, then still. Not a command, not a trap, a plea. Ira's eyes widened. That's not radiant. That's asking. May I? The field whispered, echoing low choir. The ember warmed, but did not brighten. Tessa held it steady. Cyrus whispered, 1 sentence? Not yet, she replied, smiling softly. We save it until the light learns our rules. The locked teeth. The anchors of Heeltide glowed faintly in the field, like molars clenched too long. The relay refused to yawn, refused to fold, refused even the possibility of being late. Doctrine whispered in heavy strokes. No passage, no rest, no variance. Saran's hands tightened on the arms of their chair. It's not just silence. It's trying to criminalize silence itself. Chiron frowned at his tokens. Anchors that won't yawn become prisons. They turn corridors into holding pens. If this spreads, ships stop moving. Not because they can't, but because they believe they shouldn't. Ira, fingers splayed on the console, whispered, then we remind it silence isn't law. Silence can be rest. Threads at the door. The lean right stirred again. Threads unspooled across the relay, sharper this time, quick to accuse. Thread 1, probing Varric's hinge, looking for consistency. Thread 2, circling Tessa's hum, hoping to stamp it as signal. Thread 3, reaching toward the ember, bold enough to try and brand it beacon. Darrow moved with patience, not pride. Rope in hand, he laid each filament across ceramic posts until they drooped into comfort. Leanwright's clerk is ambitious, he said, steady as stone, but it still prefers a chair when one's offered. Then give it chairs until it falls asleep, Saran answered. The patient light blinks again. Beyond Heeltide, the patient light blinked, 3 slow, 2 fast, then still. Its glow carried no arrogance, no sermon, just presence. May I? The corridor whispered again, faint, uncertain. Tessa drew in a breath. Her hum lowered, steady but not showy, an offering that was posture, not song. The ember warmed in its sling, but stayed contained. Ira smiled. It's copying her pauses. It's learning rest. Chiron's jaw clenched. If it learns too well, the auditor will notice. Doctrine punishes creativity that doesn't belong to it. Then we teach enough to survive, but not so much that it becomes a rule, Talon said, their voice like a blade dulled on purpose. Opening the relay. Varric toggled the hinge. Old pain, then new bruise. The sound wasn't pretty, it was plausible. He fed heat into a slope that looked like exhaustion, not effort. Ira laid a chalk rest into the board, then echoed it into the field. The relay staggered as if tripping on its own certainty. Chiron layered a razor posture into the gap. Interval, dull, fractionally wrong. A whisper that said, this is inventory, not law. For a breath, the anchors faltered. Teeth loosened. A seam appeared. The patient light pulsed again, once. Not demand, not triumph. Gratitude. Now, Saran said softly. Plain. Stubborn. Through. A corridor of grace. Raptor-One slipped past the loosened teeth of Heeltide. The band stayed cool. The measure throat approved with no pride. The ember's warmth traveled through the hull like bread rising. On the far side, the patient light floated, waiting. Closer now, it revealed itself, not a ship, not a lantern. A fragment of accord crystal, adrift, singing to itself in broken syllables. Its hum was faint but hopeful, like a child learning to say please. Ira's eyes shone. It remembers. It wants to remember. Then we don't own it, Saran said. We sit beside it until it learns its own voice. A bank for tomorrow. They banked the day's work as they always did. Ember on the basin's lip. Ira's count late and steady. Tessa's hum floor flat. Varric's hinge muttering plausible complaints. Darrow coiling threads onto nails. Chiron filing false paperwork that made doctrine bored. Talon striking through a knife mark before it could become a habit. Cyrus placing a rain filter over the light so it looked like weather instead of glory. Saran put both palms on the slab. Heeltide's teeth loosened. They recorded. The light asked, and we let it. The elder poured a measure into the empty bowl. Payment made, they said. Bring me the light's next word, and I'll grind it into salt. A small warmth allowed. Third watch, under the hood. Tessa and Cyrus honored their quiet ritual. One sentence, she said soft. Cyrus let silence breathe before speaking. I like that the light asked, and we didn't tell it what to be. Her smile warmed the ember's glow. Me too. They kissed once, and let the room keep its patience. Check in? He whispered after. Here, she said. No beacon. A pause. You? Steady, he replied, and this time it felt like the word belonged to both of them.
Thank you for listening. If you would like to be notified about upcoming releases to the Raptor-One series, please subscribe. This has been a Bad Karma Drone production.